Well, thank you all for joining our leader learning moment. And in this leader learning moment, we're going to be learning about a new applicant tracking system that we have called iCIMS. So as many of you may remember, for the past many years, we have been using Workday as our recruiting system. So Workday does a lot for us. It manages our employee base. We do our reviews, our benefits, payroll, time and attendance, and it was doing the recruiting as well. With our merger with Pyramid, we evaluated all of the different systems that we use, and we have decided to transition from Workday recruiting to iCIMS recruiting. iCIMS is a pure applicant tracking system that is a little bit more robust than what Workday had to offer. So for the past several months, we've been working on the implementation of iCIMS, and we're excited to say it's here now. So we are no longer using Workday for recruiting, purely using iCIMS. So today you're going to learn more about iCIMS and how to use it. You're going to learn from two different aspects. First, if you are a leader that has hourly employees that HR typically recruits for, you're going to learn how to go into iCIMS just to kind of see what's going on. Maybe you want to follow candidates, see what's out there. You'll learn how to access iCIMS for that. Or maybe you're a leader of leaders, so you recruit for the management positions that you have open, or maybe you have specialty hourly positions that you may actually do the recruiting for. So in the second part, you'll learn how to use iCIMS to review candidates and move them through the selection process. And so Taylor's going to spend some time going through all of those with you today. So thanks again for the time of joining us today, and I'll turn it over to Taylor.
All right, thanks, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to talk with you about the new applicant tracking system called iCIMS. So we're going to go over the agenda real quick, which Mike touched base on. So first is going to be a quick intro to iCIMS, some basic navigation tools to be utilizing while you're in iCIMS. The first part, we'll discuss how leaders can follow along in iCIMS of the candidate selection process for positions that HR recruits for. I will then touch base on internal candidates and that transfer process as well, as that's changed a little bit. And then the second part will be the how to recruit in iCIMS if you're a manager recruiting for any specialty hourly positions or other leadership roles within your department. Okay, so real quick about iCIMS. So first of all, what is iCIMS? It is a complete applicant tracking system, which is a software application that enables the electronic handling of recruitment and hiring needs. So as Mike discussed, we used to use Workday for our recruiting, and now it's solely going to be all done in iCIMS. So Workday versus iCIMS, Workday will hold all of your current employees' information, and you'll be able to see any positions that are open on your team. For iCIMS, the difference here is this is where we will be recruiting for those open positions on your team and where you can see candidate information. So I just want to highlight here that Workday will no longer be that recruiting system for us, and candidate information would not be available in Workday. So how to log into iCIMS, you're going to go to a complete different website from Workday. The website link that you'll want to bookmark to your browser will be pgh.icims.com, and I'll send this over to all the leaders that attended the meeting later today as well. And when you're logging into iCIMS, you're going to use your Deloitte email address. For the first time of logging in, the first attempt you make, you're going to enter your email address, select continue. And when it asks for your password, you're going to go ahead and select to reset your password so the system can send you an email link to reset that password. Once you've reset the password to a password you can remember, you can go back into the website and try logging in again. So once you've logged into iCIMS, this is going to be the first screen that you see in iCIMS, and I will show you a couple of pointers here. So this is called your dashboard. The dashboard will have a lot of great information for you to review and see on an everyday basis. However, you may not need to see all of the information all the time. So the dashboard is very customizable to the user that is using it. So you can find a really great layout that works best for you and your needs. So I've circled a couple of quick things on your dashboard to utilize to be able to customize. The first one I'm going to talk about is the 6 dots here to the left of that hiring manager data title. So this icon, you can click and drag it to different areas onto your dashboard to reorganize the layout of your dashboard. So all of these widgets that sit on your dashboard, you're able to move around on the screen. If there's a widget that you're not going to utilize anymore, like you don't need to see the applicant source metrics or you don't need to see interview information on a daily basis, you can use this second circled icon, which is the dash here. So that is where you can collapse that specific widget. So you can collapse it to where the information that's previewed is no longer showing. And then when you're ready to review it, you can always expand it later. The last two other pieces will be on the left side of the dashboard for the quick links. So the quick links comes auto pinned to your dashboard, but you're welcome to unpin it. If you unpin it, you can also then hide it from your dashboard. So then it no longer will appear on the dashboard unless you manually have it appear. So again, really easily customizable dashboard for all users, and you can find the layout that will work best for you. Okay, so on the dashboard, a couple of key things to be aware of and things that you can find on the dashboard. The first one will be that you can see all of your open positions for your department, including any that are on hold or closed. So it does separate it out to my open jobs versus my closed jobs. Within my open jobs, or both of these areas actually, the reporting is grouped by posting information. So for this case, this manager had one job posted to the external website, which is Pyramid Hotel Group. And then the job was also posted to the internal job board. So it appears in both places here. If they had any on hold that wasn't posted anywhere, the posting information would say posted to blank, and there would be a third line. The second thing that you can find on your dashboard is a bunch of reports you can view to see the candidate flow. So if you're interested in finding out where the candidates are coming from, like how are they applying, whether it's Indeed, our company's website, or they heard about us at a career fair, you can always use these reports for candidates by source. Any candidates within the last 30 days for any openings, you can go back and look at that historical data as well, and also just the time to fill for your positions. After the reports, you can also see a quick snapshot of any pre-hires submitted into Workday. Pre-hires would be those candidates that we've given a job offer to for a position with us. And once they're submitted into Workday for the hire, they will pop up in your pre-hire submitted to Workday box on your dashboard. All right. So after going through the dashboard, just those quick navigation areas, I want to also discuss two important roles that you'll see on your openings for the positions. The roles being the hiring manager role and the recruiter role for your openings. And I'll tell you the differences between the two. So for hiring manager, this is the role that can review and disposition candidates for their department's current job openings. Anybody that's a department head in their department or assistant manager in their department will automatically be listed on these openings as the hiring manager. So any manager, assistant managers would have access to go into iCIMS and review those candidates. The difference between the hiring manager and the recruiter role on the opening is that the recruiter role will have the same access as the hiring manager, plus the recruiter will receive email notifications when applications are received. For the recruiting role, this can only be assigned to one person. So for hourly positions that HR recruits for, I will be listed as the recruiter. But as the hiring managers, you will still have the same access by going in directly to iCIMS to view the candidates. For any manager roles or special hourly positions that the department is recruiting for, just let me or Marjorie know who you would like to list as the recruiter. So be keeping in mind that the recruiter would be the person primarily reviewing those applicants, going through the selection process, and would be receiving those email notifications. So the main difference between hiring manager and recruiter on these openings is the email notifications, but the accesses are still the same. Also, for the openings, it is organized in a kind of folder, subfolder type of way. So you will see labels of bins and statuses on the openings. So the bins and statuses are a way that we can put candidates into easily readable folders in order to see where everyone in the requisition is in the hiring process at any given moment. So think of the bin as your main folder, as like your inbox, and the status would be the subfolder within the bin. So anything that you've created, any folders you've created within your inbox. Each bin and status will also reflect the last action that has been completed for that candidate. So we have to kind of change our mindset from Workday. So in Workday, we always showed the candidate was in the stage of the process that needed to be completed. So if they were in, a manager interview, that means they are having a manager interview in the future. iCIMS is going to be opposite in that way. iCIMS will reflect the last action that was completed. So if they've had that interview with the manager, then they would land an interview completed. When you're looking at your openings, there's blue bubbles next to each bin and status. These blue bubbles will indicate how many applications are in that specific bin or status. Okay. So for those leaders that are going to kind of be following along in iCIMS for the positions that HR recruits for, this is going to go over the training and what to expect when you go into iCIMS and when you're reviewing our process. Some general information is that HR will recruit for all of the hourly positions with some exceptions to a few. And when we're recruiting for those positions, we are reviewing those applicants, we're contacting them and conducting phone screens. After the phone screens are completed, we're scheduling the on-site interviews with the department. We're dispositioning the candidates inside of iCIMS for the department leaders as well, either moving them forward or rejecting applications. And then lastly, we provide the job offer for those hourly candidates. During the selection process, I highly encourage leaders to follow along in iCIMS to see the status of candidates. Ask questions if needed. If you see candidates as you're going through iCIMS and you think that they're like a rock star candidate for your position, reach out to us and let us know you want to prioritize scheduling them for an interview, and we can make that happen for you. So definitely follow along, as it is an easy way to get a quick view of where everyone is in the selection process. Okay. So as you're going through iCIMS and a candidate applies, there's the first bin. There's the first bin that they can land in. So new external applicants will appear in the new submissions bin under status of external portal. If we have any internal candidates for an opening, they will also land in the new submissions bin, but their status will be the internal portal. So there's going to be an easy way to identify when you have an external candidate versus an internal candidate. And this will also identify that the internal employees are applying through the internal job board as they should be. Another bin that you will see at the top of your openings is this incomplete invited to apply bin. So applications that land in this invited to apply bin are applicants that used Indeed's quick apply function to submit a quick resume and contact information. When they do the quick apply through Indeed, they are not actually going through the full application process on Pyramid's website, which is why they land in this incomplete bin. In addition to those that use the Indeed quick apply, this bin will also include any candidates that we as the recruiters submit to the job opening. So we are inviting them to apply to a specific position. And I see these candidates as ones that maybe applied for the EMM position, and we've redirected to consider them for maybe the concierge position or something along those lines. So we are inviting them to be considered for that concierge role versus than the one they applied for initially. So again, there's that blue number with the number of candidates that would be sitting in that specific bin. For those candidates that are in this incomplete invited to apply bin, we will still review those applications and we can begin the selection process with any of those candidates while they're in this incompleted bin. When they land in this incomplete bin, an automatic email is sent by iCIMS asking them to complete the full application for the position that they've applied to. As we move someone through the selection process and their application is incomplete, I just want to note here that any candidates that we want to move to job offer, they would have to submit that full application for the position they're being offered prior to the offer happening. So if you're talking to someone, or if we're talking to someone and we notice that the candidate has yet to complete their application, their full application, we can give them an extra nudge to complete the application by placing them back in that incomplete invited to apply status. Doing this action will prompt an email template to pop up for you to send to the candidate asking for them to complete the app. Once that candidate completes their full application, the application will then move to the new submissions bin under external portal. Right, so as we review applications and we would like to conduct phone screens for any candidates, there will be 4 different statuses that can appear during this process. The first status will be to be contacted, which means the application was reviewed and we're going to contact that candidate later. The second status would be first attempt at contact, which means we've reviewed their application and we're contacting them immediately to conduct or schedule the phone screen. And any attempt after that first attempt would be labeled as second attempt to contact or third attempt to contact. So same situation for that first attempt, is just going to notate that we've made 2 or 3 attempts after that initial attempt. So as recruiters for my team, we will make 3 attempts to contact those candidates via text message before declining an application. And if for some reason we're not getting a response from who we think could be a good candidate, we will use alternative methods as well, like phone or an email. Once the phone screen has been completed with those candidates, my team will then either decline an application or schedule that candidate for the on-site interview. If we're scheduling them for the on-site interview, we schedule them as soon as the candidate is available. So if I'm talking to someone today and they can come in tomorrow, I hope to get them scheduled for tomorrow. Managers will receive an email the day before any in-person interview with the time details of that interview coming in by 4 p.m. If there are any days or times in the future that you know there will be no hiring leader for your department available, just let myself or Marjorie know that we need to avoid certain times or days upcoming in advance. That way we don't happen to schedule someone coming in and you're on PTO or something like that. So just let us know and we will do our best to avoid those dates and times for you. Once the on-site interview is scheduled for the candidate, the application will then be moved to the bin of hiring manager initial review, and their status would be interview scheduled. So just a quick glance of the interview packet, which most of you are familiar with, but for anybody who has only seen this a few times or maybe not at all, I just want to highlight a couple of areas that we want to make sure gets filled out on this packet. So the first area I want to point out is on the cover page, which is the interview workflow. This will just tell us who was doing the interview for the candidate and the date and time. So if the initial department interview, let us know who interviewed them. If there's any additional department interviews that they have to go through, let us know who interviewed those people. In addition, we will have the HR interview person put their name here as well. If for some reason the candidate has to come back to complete any additional interviews, you can list those interview dates and times here at the bottom of the cover. Once you're in the interview with the candidate, we give you a page of the interview packet to make any notes from your department interview. So at the top of this page on the right here, we list a couple of questions that we want to make sure gets confirmed during the interview. And then there's a blank space for you to put any notes for any additional information you receive from that candidate during the interview. The last half of this page will be where you notate the outcome of the interview, whether it's a decline, and provide us the reason for decline here. And if you want to make that job offer, just let me know by submitting the information at the bottom of this page and signing it at the bottom. So once a signature is here, that'll indicate to myself that you are ready to make that job offer. When the candidate comes to that on-site interview, they first meet with the department for the interviews that are scheduled. Any additional interviews the candidate has to go through will be scheduled by the department. So if they need to meet with your LC member or something like that, you would be responsible for scheduling those additional interviews. And our goal is to make a decision on the first visit that candidate has to the property. Once the candidate meets with those department interviews, there's 3 different outcomes that can happen at this point. After the department interview and you're choosing that we're not interested in the candidate or we want to decline that candidate, as you're finishing up the interview, you can send that candidate home. If the candidate is not selected to move forward, provide us that reason for decline on the interview packet and give it back to HR. And you can bring that packet back after you walk the candidate out, because I know sometimes it can be a little awkward trying to fill it out and they're standing right next to you. Another tip here is that HR will reject those applications in iCIMS based on the reason provided in the packet. The second option that could happen after the interview is redirect. Bring them back to the HR office if you think that they are a good candidate, maybe just the position that they interviewed for with you is just not the right position. Bring them back to our HR office and give us your recommendations of where else you might be able to see them at the property. And then the last outcome of the interview would be to hire that candidate and make the job offer. If you are choosing to hire them, it's very important not to offer or allude to an offer before their HR interview. So at this point, you would walk the candidate back to HR, let them know they have their final interview with us, and hope to see them later. Once that candidate is selected for offer, provide us that information on that interview packet that I showed you, and the HR interview will then be completed and the job offer will be given if the candidate meets our hiring criteria. If they do not meet our hiring criteria, we will go ahead and decline the candidates. If the candidate is given the job offer verbally, we will move that candidate inside of iCIMS to the offer stage or bin in iCIMS. HR will then conduct a background check, drug test, and schedule them for an upcoming orientation. And as a leader who is hiring these people is just to check your interview results emails to see the tentative orientation dates for that person coming in. Any questions so far for those leaders that will be following along in iCIMS for positions HR recruits for?
I had a question, Taylor, on the, so just to make sure I heard it right. So you said if the candidate is not meeting the criteria and we don't think it's a good fit, we walk him straight out and then bring the packet to you with a reason why. So we don't have to stop by HR if they're not the good fit.
Right. If they're not a good fit,
Okay.
And you don't even see potential redirect options, go ahead and walk that candidate out to the door. Yes.
Anything in specific, like, hey, we'll be in contact with you, or like anything specific that we should let them know?
Yes. A good, I guess, finalization to the conversation will just be thank you so much for coming in. We're contacting our top candidates by the end of the week. So
Okay.
if you are a top candidate, you will receive a phone call.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? That was a great one. So I'll go ahead and move on to the internal transfer process. So at the September all hands meeting, I did mention that this has changed just a little bit. So here is the new process. So for any internal employees that are interested in transferring to another position, they can still access the internal job board through Workday. It's just they are going to a different link now rather than the Find Jobs in Workday. So how to access through Workday is they have to be on a desktop version of Workday, like a laptop, tablet, like using your Safari. You cannot be in the app for Workday. But once they're on that desktop version of Workday, they'll go to their all apps from their home screen, select the career app. And once they're here, they, instead of selecting that find jobs that used to be used historically, they will go to the external link that's listed as Pyramid Global Internal Careers Portal. So that'll take them to the internal job board. And another way they can access this internal job board is by going directly to the portal, which is internal-pgh.icims.com. They just have to ensure to filter to our location in order to only see our jobs for our property. When an employee applies internally, their current leader, the HR team, and the recruiter assigned for that role will receive an email notification that an employee has applied. So some quick tips here is that changes made in the internal transfer process is that internal applications will no longer need the current manager's approval. So if you have any concerns, please contact the hiring manager to discuss those concerns. For internal applicants as well, the hiring manager is definitely encouraged to meet with that current leader of the employee for any feedback prior to starting the interview process with them. And the other transfer guidelines still apply to this process. So when we receive an internal application, the HR team will still qualify them for time and position, whether it's the three to 6 month mark based on what they're applying to, and if they have any disciplinary action within the 6 months. So those guidelines will still apply in this new process. Once we have an internal candidate apply and we're scheduling interviews, first and foremost, HR will contact those hiring leaders when you have an internal candidate for an opening, and we will offer any assistance if you need assistance in scheduling those initial interview with that person. Once you are scheduling those interviews and you're going to meet with that internal employee, be sure to stop by HR to pick up the yellow transfer sheet for those to make interview notes on. Once they've met with you, there's 2 different outcomes that could happen after the interview. The first outcome is that we want to offer the position to the internal candidate. If you do choose that you want to offer, contact myself or Marjorie in the office to let us know that you want to move forward with that internal employee. If you are moving forward, the yellow transfer sheet would need to be signed with an effective date that the transfer is going to take place and the pay rate that we're going to be offering to the person. And this will be done prior to the job offer being made. HR will make the job offers as well. And regarding the effective date of the transfer, I encourage you to coordinate that with the employee's current leader to ensure both departments are on the same page of when the date is to be effective. The other outcome for the interview would be that we're declining that internal employee. If you are declining an internal candidate, the hiring leader would meet with the internal employee to provide the feedback of why they're not being selected. Once the feedback is given to that employee, stop by our office to fill out the yellow transfer sheet. And then the HR team will decline internal applications in iCIMS once that yellow transfer sheet is completed. Last important note here is that all internal applicants must be interviewed and provided feedback before any job offer is made. So just keep in mind with that as well. Any questions on the internal transfer process or concerns to the changes of the internal transfer process? Perfect. So I'll go ahead and jump right into part 2 of the iCIMS training, which is going to go over how to use iCIMS if you are a hiring manager recruiting for your own positions, whether it's another leadership position or the special hourly positions. So to reiterate, when a candidate applies, they will land in either two of these statuses. The new external applications will land in that new submissions bin, with the status being external portal. And if you have any internal candidates, they will land in the same bin of new submissions, with the status being internal portal. As you're reviewing the candidate, here's a quick snapshot of what those applications will look like in iCIMS. So I circled real quick right here, my Christmas tree, the advance and reject button. You get a quick glimpse of if they have other submissions out there throughout the company would be listed here, their source, the specific application you're looking at, so what position they've applied for. Their distance from our property and contact information is all here on the left side. So real quick, easy to view. You have a few different tabs to work through. If they uploaded a resume, it would open immediately to that resume. You can then view the application, which is the full pyramid application here. And those additional tabs will break down like their experience, the source that they're coming from, how they applied, and the information like that. So once you're reviewing those candidates, one of three things can happen as you're reviewing them. You can choose to move the candidate to the to be contacted status here, because you're going to contact them later. You can go ahead and attempt to contact the candidate for the phone screen, or after reviewing the application, you can choose to reject the candidate, which I'll go through the rejection of candidates in a slide in the next few slides. Also, I want to highlight on the application itself, you can make notes on the application. So use the notes section to provide details on when an interview is scheduled, whether it's a phone screen or on-site interview, any contact attempts that have been made to this candidate. And if you've had the phone screen, you can leave brief recap notes from this phone screen as well if you wish to do so. Utilizing this notes tab, just to be mindful, is that these notes will stay with the candidate's profile. So if they have multiple applications out through iCIMS for the company, these notes are able to be viewed at any time. When you're contacting candidates, three statuses can be used in this scenario. The first status would be that first attempt to contact, which is your initial attempt to contact that candidate and conduct or schedule the phone screen. If they don't respond to you after the first time and you contact them additional times, there's two additional status to use here, which is second attempt to contact or third attempt to contact. We recommend text messaging as a way to contact candidates for more immediate response times. But if you're not receiving responses to text messages, please feel free to use other methods of contact, whether it be phone call, an email, anything else other than texting. Don't feel like we're just saying only text them. It's just responses may be received a little bit quicker via text. After 3 attempts have been made to that candidate and you've received no response, please feel free to reject the candidate and go ahead and move on to the next candidate you'd like to contact. Once a candidate's been contacted and phone screens are completed, one of two things will occur. The on-site interview will be scheduled, which in this case, you'll select the candidate's application, click that green advance button on your Christmas tree, and select them to go to bin hiring manager initial review, and the status they will be in is interview scheduled. Once you schedule that on-site interview, please send an email to the HR team, being Marjorie and myself, to provide us the date and time of the on-site interview. So when are they coming? The candidate name and the position that they are interviewing for. Once we have all of this information, we will send interview information like a confirmation via text message to that candidate and prepare all of the items needed for the on-site interview, like the interview packet, printing out a copy of the resume, application, etc. The second thing that can happen after a phone screen is conducted is that we are choosing to reject the candidate and they're not being selected for that on-site interview. If you are rejecting the candidate, I will show you how to do that on the next few slides. For on-site interviews that are scheduled, follow the normal process for the on-site interviews. So they'll meet with the department. If they have any additional interviews, you need to schedule those as well. Keep HR informed of all candidates that are coming in for an on-site interview to just so we are aware of that. And the HR office will be the best meeting location. So we provide them the day of the interview a second set of text messages that include very detailed information of how to access and enter the building. So the HR office will be the best meeting point because that information guides them straight to this office. All right, so when we are rejecting candidates, rejection can happen after the initial review of the application or after the phone screen is completed or attempted. When you're rejecting candidates, you'll select the reject button on the Christmas tree here, and you'll see a drop down of a different variety of statuses. So the application will be moved to a bin called not selected, which is listed here, not selected. And then you'd want to select the appropriate status that best fits the reason for the rejection. So I have a couple of statuses for hiring managers to use, which could be position was canceled or it was filled by another candidate. So there's two options there. The additional statuses you can use is that you reviewed the application and chose, not to select them. And let's say they had gone through the phone screen or even on-site interviews, and we've chosen not to select them. That last status would be hiring manager interviewed and not selected. Once you select the appropriate status for the rejection, two additional things will need to happen. The first thing would be to select a detailed reason for decline, which could be commute, qualifications, compensation, things of that nature. And once you select that reason, like I selected here, no show for interview, an explanation box will come up to provide brief notes for explanation. So here, if there was a no show for interview, you could put interviewed 10:10 at 10 a.m., waited 15 minutes, candidate did not show up. Something along those lines. So keep it brief and minimum. And then the last piece I circled here is important for us to do. We will have to check to select to send an email notice to the candidate that they were rejected. So this is not an automated process anymore. We have to manually tell the system to send that email notice. Once you have selected to send an email to a candidate, a new pop-up window will appear to compose that email. It is automatically defaulted to be a delayed email notice. So if you're going in today to send an email, the delayed email notice could actually go to the candidate by Friday or whatever that hour window of time is. Or you can choose to select immediate delivery. So you're sending it now and you want the person to receive it now. So there's those two options there at the top of the email composition. When you are trying to figure out what template to use, just search TB&T in that template area here. TB&T meaning thanks but no thanks, and then use the appropriate TB&T template that pops up once you search that. After any on-site interviews for candidates, HR will reject their applications in iCIMS based on the reason provided in the interview packet. So as a hiring manager going through the selection process with candidates, you would only reject candidates if after the phone screen is completed or after initial review is completed. Any questions about the selection process if you are a manager using iCIMS to recruit for your own positions?
What if that button at the bottom for the automated email, there's not like a checkbox? I don't have that checkbox.
This here?
Correct.
Okay. Send me a quick note and I will ensure to ask my corporate team how to make that happen for you.
Thank you.
In the meantime, Jen, if you know of any candidates that you've rejected, I can go in on my side and reject them as well. So they get that email notice.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Great question. Any other questions? Okay, perfect. Before we sign off today, I do want to have everyone try to attempt to log into iCIMS to ensure everyone can get access. And then after this call today and you're getting into iCIMS, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to come down to the office, shoot me an email or anything like that, and I'll be happy to help.